Hello, my name is Nadu Denloye, the author of this book titled Answering the Call, Making Sense of It, and Taking Ownership of the Journey. The printed version was released in 2016. To quote the writer of the foreword, this book is about the profound life experiences of a child of God as she seeks to become the best that the Creator intended her to be. The proceeds of the book go towards 6 ministries the Nadu Denloye Trust has been supporting. I'm pleased to say that we have successfully disbursed the 3rd tranche of annual payments to these ministries this year, 2018. With your support, I hope to be able to sustain this giving for as long as I can. I've made this audio recording of the book, read by me, to further encourage your gifts or donation to the Trust. Gifts, donations of any amount will be kindly welcome and can be paid directly to SITL/the Nadu Denloye Trust, Stanbic IBTC Bank, account number 001-698-9514. Please feel free to share this audio recording widely, and thank you so much for your support. Answering the Call, Making Sense of It, and Taking Ownership of the Journey. Authored and read by Nadu Denloye. Preface. And I pray that as you share your faith with others, it will grip their lives too. Philemon 6. I suggest that the only books that influence us are those for which we are ready and which have gone a little further down a particular path than we have gone ourselves. E.M. Forster. There's certainly some truth to the adage that life begins at 40. I would say that to anybody willing to give me an ear. The transformational experience I had at about the time I hit this quintessential age was so profound I couldn't help but talk about it. What happened? I was reborn. William Wallace in the film Braveheart said, "Everyone dies, not everyone truly lives." And so it was that I began to truly live. This book is about my understanding of the journey called life and the transforming power of Jesus Christ in my life. Everyone has a story. This is my story. And I believe the difference Christ makes in my life is a story worth telling, and the time is now. At the age of 60, if the 70 years of the proverbial lifespan were condensed into a single 24-hour day, it would now be 2057 hours in my life. How many times over the last few years have I uttered the scripture, "Lord, teach me to number my days"? The thought particularly tugged at me, and not without cause, as I sat through a schoolmate's funeral 2 years ago. She was just 1 year my senior in secondary school and had celebrated her 60th birthday only a few months before. The pictures in the funeral program were those from her birthday celebration. Her joy, her laughter at being in the midst of loved ones and close associates at this milestone seemed to jump out of the pictures. Did she know at that time that that would be her last birthday celebration on planet Earth? I had the calling to write this book about 10 years ago. I felt compelled to write it, to pass on to others what I have received. Rick Warren, in his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, says that as you grow closer to God, He will give you a passion for something He cares deeply about, so you can be a spokesman for Him in the world. It may be a passion about a problem, a purpose, a principle, or a group of people. Whatever it is, you will feel compelled to speak up about it and do what you can to make a difference. You cannot keep yourself from talking about what you care about most. Indeed, the more I am learning and growing, the more I have seen the need to apply what I am learning and to share it with others. I did make a start even back then, 10 years ago, but procrastination and rationalization as to other things that needed doing as well seemed to be the order of the day. So at this funeral, I got thinking that I had to get down to it. There would be no one to blame after all the nudging. To not do this one thing I know God has called me to do, in spite of any other good thing I may be associated with, would be failing, a matter of the good being the enemy of the best. From the world, a pass mark maybe, but from Him who has put me here for such a purpose, a resounding F. What could the loss of sight, my right hand, my mind, or any mishap to me or to those connected to my destiny portend towards the ability to execute my calling? Nobody plans or prays for these occurrences, but life does happen. One day everything is hunky-dory, then out of the blue a whirlwind appears, taking the socks off you. You never saw it coming, but there it is, and after all the procrastination, what excuse can you give? So, what is it that has been given to me? Nothing fundamentally new, for indeed there is nothing new under the sun. Paraphrasing Ecclesiastes 3:15, whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before. Many have written, and many more will continue to share about life and living. It has been from time immemorial, and whatever there is has been known to some and has been said in one form or the other. A matter of old truths said in new forms and words. Stephen Covey, in his book The Eighth Habit, refers to a remark made at a conference about all the speakers essentially saying the same thing. Each had his or her own semantics and definitions and often had some unique insight not voiced by others, but in terms of the most basic elements, they were the same. I have come to the conclusion that if the call is pressing, it must have its own unique insight, form, approach, or timing. Though it basically embodies the same general message, it will resonate with a specific set of people in a special way, confirming, refining, integrating, or expanding their own thoughts and ideas and taking them further down a similar path of enlightenment and growth. I would hardly describe myself as the omniscient guide, rather the learner and synthesizer, craving coherence and integration of my experiences and others, and putting them together in a way as to try to make sense of the journey of life. And I must say, only to the extent that I know now, because with reflection and time come new perspectives, refinements of thoughts and ideas, and increased understanding of experiences and events. It may be wise to learn from one's experiences, but it's certainly wiser to learn from the experiences of others. There's just no way we can learn everything in life by trial and error. And so, I share my understanding of life's journey in the hope that it could be the trigger for change and transformation in your life. So you may not have to struggle and find your way through these issues the way I did. Hopefully, you can start at the level I reached after many years. I hope it will help you refine and make sense of your own experiences as you go through them. Answering the call, making sense of it, and taking ownership of the journey. Authored and read by Nadu Denloye. Prologue. The aha. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. The voyage of discovery depends not on visiting distant shores, but on seeing the world with new eyes. Proust. And in one shuddering instant of truth, our hero was reborn. He discovered an entirely new life, and with the discovery of his new life, there came for the very first time in his life the beginning of some purpose that was hiding there behind it. So states Michael Gerber in his book E-Myth Revisited of his rebirth experience, his awakening. I found myself at this point at about the time I turned 40. I began to ask the question, who am I? What is my purpose? The trigger? A seemingly innocuous one, a telephone discussion with a friend which led to her recommending The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey as a must-read. From reading it, I had the startling and explosive discovery that I wasn't a very nice person. I had undertaken the exercise in the early part of the book of looking first at one picture, a young woman, then another, a young woman still but more fashionably dressed, and then a third, an old woman. To my amazement, I discovered that the middle picture I thought and would have bet on as that of a young, fashionably dressed woman could also be a drab old woman, depending on which way one looked at the picture. The necklace of the young woman was the mouth of the old woman. The ear of the young one was the eye of the old woman. The outline of the cheek and chin of the young woman was the nose of the old one, and so on. I was suddenly faced with the understanding that black could be white, depending on which way one looked at it. It was for me a shocking realization that I couldn't always be right, an upheaval, to say the least, to my self-image. And in that one instant moment of truth, the scales fell off my eyes and a process of self-awareness and change was launched. Principles do not change. We do. It is said that we hear and see things not just the way they are said or shown, but also by the way we are. So, when our perspectives change, we approach things differently from before. Things that had sunk unnoticed in our subconscious minds suddenly come to life, taking on new significance, resulting in new revelation and/or in new applications that take root within us. Indeed, as has been said, few things can be more exciting and rewarding than that sudden flash of insight that leaves one a changed person. Not only changed, but changed for the better. And so it was that at 40 years of age, I was reborn. And with it came the change I mentioned, change of self, a new perspective towards life and of living the rest of my life consciously. It is said that the eagle can live up to 70 years, but to reach this age, it must take a hard decision in its 40s. Its long and flexible talons can no longer grab prey which serves as food. Its long and sharp beak becomes bent. Its aged and heavy wings, due to their thick feathers, become stuck to its chest and make it difficult to fly. Then, the eagle is left with only two options: to die or go through a painful process of change which lasts for 150 days. The process requires that the eagle flies to a mountain top and sits on its nest. There, the eagle knocks its beak against a rock until it is plucked out. After plucking it out, the eagle will wait for a new beak to grow back, and then it will also pluck out its talons. When its new talons grow back, the eagle starts plucking out its old feathers. After a period of 5 months, the eagle is ready to take its famous flight of rebirth and go on to live for 30 more years. Unlike the eagle in the fable, my own mountaintop experience was not physical, but it was intense nonetheless. Many of my ideas about myself were dissipated. I came to the realization that I didn't have all the answers. The gnawing truth was that the reality of who I was not who I thought I was or would like to be thought as. I went through highs and lows of understanding, regret, low self-esteem, and self-doubt. Within that experience surfaced sensitivity to things I had never even considered or ever thought of before. Some of what I thought I knew was turning out to be a fallacy. If all that I knew was what I'd learned or picked up along the way, besides not being all correct, surely it was then also not all there was to know. Who was I? What was I about? How did I affect others? What did people think of me? Why was I here anyway? These questions and issues had never consciously crossed my mind before. And yet, I was seemingly successful in life. A PhD at 25, co-founder of a leading IT company, a wife, mother to 3 beautiful children, and all. I'd had successful transitions through the natural progressions of life. School, career, marriage, children. Supposedly made the right choices with some degree of consciousness, obviously at some level, but not at the deepest level of finding meaning, fulfilling potential, and expressing myself fully. And from the regret and all, finally to acceptance, to finding meaning and hope, to expectancy and anticipation for the future. The new me that evolved from the mountaintop experience was one resolved to becoming all that I was capable of becoming, to maximize my potential and stretch myself as much as I could. A me resolved to going beyond a life of existence at the unconscious and subconscious levels to one of truly living at the conscious level, living life to the full. Little did I know that this midlife experience of change in itself is one of life's progressions if the conditions are right for it, if we open ourselves up to it. No one had ever talked about it with me before, or if they did, I wasn't listening. My reading repertoire had not also extended to such intellectual realms. However, as the thirst for knowledge kicked in as a result of the change going on in me, I was led to relevant literature on the subject. Research and writings on this phenomenon, as I came to find out, are largely within the realms of psychology and leadership development. In his book, Leadership Gold, Dr. John Maxwell, best-selling author and leadership expert, defines 4 different types of leadership-defining crucibles based on observations in his own life and in the lives of those around him. Groundbreakers. These experiences literally thrust one out and enable them to break new ground. Heartbreakers. Those painful, unwelcome events that stop one in their tracks and force them to reevaluate priorities. Cloudbreakers. The encounters allow one to see the big picture suddenly and clearly like never before. Chartbreakers. Those defining moments allow one to soar with confidence. I would describe my experience as a cloudbreaker, a wake-up call that nudged me into a change state between unconscious incompetence about my life, not knowing that I did not know how to live it, and conscious incompetence, knowing that I did not know. I had a new set of lenses through which to see the world. I was suddenly seeing as I'd never seen before, appreciating things I hadn't even known existed, and yet it had been there all the time. This awareness is something we have to be brought to, and from the heart, not the head. Otherwise, we continue being driven in the subconscious and end up living suboptimally. It was the beginning of a process of determining where I was going, and where I really wanted to be, and becoming more sensitive to situations where I needed to improve. A time of embracing the full measure of my being, of spiritual rebirth, clarifying beliefs and reframing priorities, refocusing on what really mattered, and above all, committing to change. Being all I could be, the best I could be, took on new meaning. And it was easy to commit to this because the decision was from the heart. At the level of the intellect, we can know all the skills and techniques that are required, but it is the gut-level decision of the heart that provides the force, commitment, and discipline to move us to do what we say. If we don't feel our values and goals, we can't live them. I have come to understand that until you truly know yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, know what you want to do and why you want to do it, you cannot succeed in any but the most superficial sense. To listen and download this audiobook for free, please go to soundcloud.com or youtube.com and search for Answering the Call.
If you would like to make further inquiries about this audio recording or the ebook or print versions of the book, kindly send an email to answeringthecallaudio@gmail.com. Thank you.